the security situation in the country and the measures, moves, or steps taken to see if they could just, let's say they're getting on top of it. But that's what we'll focus on here today. And Dr. Femi Adegbulu joins us now. He's a public affairs analyst. Thank you for coming on this morning.
My pleasure again to be here.
Well. Some developments unfolding in the country with respect to getting the security situation under check. From what you've seen so far, are we taking the right steps now?
Yes, I would say yes. We're taking the right step. Though some of us believe that some of these things should have been done earlier before now.
But better late than never.
Better late than never. I think we're on the right track now.
Okay, but in terms of the revelations, the arrests, the onslaught that the SSS seems to be carrying out in Kano, in spite of the killings, that notwithstanding, the moves, does it appear to you as if they're analyzing these matters, they're picking their targets and moving ahead with it?
Are you talking about the Boko Haram now?
Yes.
Or what? Well, the whole thing still comes to underscore what some of us have been saying for a very long time now, that these people are not faceless, that they are human beings, and that people in government actually know them. And if all these things are happening, we see individual dramatic personae in the whole scenario, and what individuals are doing and what they are not doing, which they're supposed to be doing. So we begin to suspect, why should this happen? Why should this happen? But from what we have all been seeing now, also it is very clear that the people who are doing these things are still very much around and entrenched in the establishment. And like the president himself rightly said, that there are enemies within. So these are the fifth columnists that are, frustrating and a kind of sabotaging our government's effort.
Yeah, but does that make us appreciate the challenge that government has in terms of those who are within?
Yes. Let me say, for the first time, I know some people will be surprised this coming from me, that I do not envy President Goodluck Jonathan at all. Because it is now, we are beginning to see the enormity of the problem he has had to counter. Because when you have enemies within, and sometimes you cannot even point to this particular enemy, this is one of them. So you have them as cabinet members, you have them as members of House of Rep, you have them in the security unit itself. So you can't place faces on them. You have meetings with them. Security meetings are held with them. You understand what I'm saying? It's so complex that we have to pity the president, and all of us have to look for how to actually resolve this problem. And that also underscores what some of us have been saying about the need to convoke a national conference. It's germane at this point, very, very germane. Let's discuss how we are going to move forward as a country. So what modus operandi are we going to adopt to move together, and progress together? Because first of all, we need to know what is the agenda of these people who are bent on bringing down the government at all costs. What's the agenda? Is there any need to negotiate or discuss with them? Do you even negotiate with such people?
What do you think?
What do you think they need?
Do you think they should negotiate with them?
Well, I think I should sound ambivalent here, because if you say you want to negotiate with them, what about if their terms is that, look, we want to be finance minister, we want to be works minister, we want to be chief of staff, and all these things that government cannot concede. So how do you concede to such people? There must be a time that government will put its feet on the ground and say, look, we are not going back. That is what we call political will anyway. Every government at any given time must be able to muster this political will and say, look, we are in government, we are in power, we are in control. No single individual or a cabal or a group of individuals will prove too powerful for any government at any time. Otherwise, the government does not have any reason that.
But with these developments yesterday about the police, it's a major step.
It is. That's why I say, look, I think we are making some progressive move towards that direction. That the chief of police have been sacked. And you see, not yet Uhuru Chamberlain. So let's not go too early, and roll out drums, because the new person that is assuming the role today Well, we cannot roll out drums yet because don't let us do that yet because I don't know. I don't know what magic wine. I don't know any magic wine the new guy has to do better than his predecessor. So that's why
the way it is, Dr. Adegbulu, is it an impossible task for us to really reform the police? Because we were trying to make, you are a historian, we were trying to make reference to Kenya, and we saw after that crisis that almost broke the nation, we saw what finally came out of Kenya, a brand new police force, so professional.
Yes.
So can't we actually get something close, if not even better than that?
Yeah, actually, when I look through the terms of reference of the new committee that have been inaugurated, I was happy. I was happy because one of the terms actually states that, you know, they should look at the profile, look at the record of all the police officers with a view to detecting those who have been inefficient on grounds of corruption, old age, and lack of innovativeness and all that. I was happy, but at the same time, I realized very quickly again that, oh, you are in Nigeria, so where everything is possible. And like the Germans will say, alles ist möglich. Everything is possible in Nigeria. So a situation like that will cut your joy short, because when you're talking about reform on ground of inefficiency, corruption, and all that, almost half of the police you will lay off, or if not 70%.
Can we afford that?
We cannot afford that because we do not have. We didn't plan for that. Number one, so we have not put machinery in place to be able to immediately assume. I mean, do that and let the new people, assume power. One of your guests yesterday was making a suggestion. This is one of the problems we had. When we have brilliant suggestions coming from experts, coming from academia, you dismiss them with a wave of the hand, and these people are just armchair. Look, that guy was saying yesterday that what is stopping the NYSC graduates, those who are just in the NYSC, from being given security, orientation, as they are graduating, leaving that scheme, they are all experts in security.
Should we be thinking of having a temporary ban,
so that we have new breed in the system?
A temporary ban on recruitment into the Nigeria police until we get that reform in place?
A temporary ban, then you begin to wonder, what is the level of okay, so how many policemen now are on the level or on the verge of retirement that we can say, okay, let's wait for these old individuals, those who have attained particular status in police to retire, while we replace them with new breed? For how long do we wait?
Because we're trying to look at what has worked in other climes. Again, we go back to
what
Kenya.
We can do.
In 2009, a ban was placed for recruitment, and it was lifted in 2010 at about August, and the reform kicked in 2011. And what we see today is something quite different.
That is what I'm saying, Sulai, because this is a multi-ethnic society where people will begin to read meanings to what step government takes. Oh, okay, look at all the DIGs retired, for instance. I think about 4 of them out of 6 are from a particular region. Did you see it?
Not really. I think the names make people think
think
that they're from a particular region. One of them is even from Edo State, but you would think that he's from the north.
Now, situation like that, for instance, people will begin to know, how come he's retiring all these people and not from this area? So because of that, we cannot do this thing in one fell swoop. But if any government that actually desirous of reformation, wants to reform, we not look at that. We just do it for the sake of the country. For patriotic sake, he will just do it without, you understand, but can he afford to do it? Does he have the political will to carry this out? That's what we are talking about.
After the UN bombings, especially after we did that summit on security, would you say, the Channels Forum on security, would you say you could see any clear strategy of the government towards fighting terrorism?
No. I would say it has always been a hit or miss tactics, which I've said before. A hit or miss. For instance, how do you explain the Zachary Bill saga? You are escorting a hardened criminal, number one enemy of the state, to wherever, and he escaped, along the road. So, I mean, you don't even tell a 7-year-old boy this kind of story. It sounds cock and bull. That an escort of policemen going with just one singular individual, maybe to reveal certain things, on the road he disappeared. Come on, who do you tell that kind of story?
So you haven't seen any clear strategy of
No.
I mean, the president spoke about carrot and stick.
Carrot and stick. I think by now we don't need carrot and stick, because these people have come out clearly to tell you that we don't negotiate. Our agenda is clear. We don't negotiate with anybody. So how do you negotiate with such individual? When we talk about carrot and stick, okay, you come, let's discuss. You take this, please. Don't foment trouble anymore. We are going to give it by tomorrow. Even before you finish that carrot and stick project in Kaduna, for example, another one is sounding in Bauchi.
No, some people say that.
Do you know their leader? Do you know their leader as in the one who controls all of them? That you can call to round table and say, look, let's discuss, and that one will disseminate information to his rank and file. Do you know one singular individual? Until this Sokoto guy, did we know who actually was leading them?
Do we still know?
I'm asking.
Oh, okay, but the Borno elders.
And then who do you discuss with?
The place where Boko Haram started, Borno State, and elders of thoughts in that state have said that one of the ways to actually get to the root of this is to be able to get to those who are truly Boko Haram, because they believe that this process too, their name too, has also been hijacked by people who are trying to advance whatever cause it is they're trying to advance, and that it's very important for the government to be able to find out who the true Boko Haram people are and discuss with them, find out what their grievances are. If you look at the language coming from Borno, where this thing started, it seems the language there is still dialogue.
Okay. Mark, I want to tell you something. This whole thing came like what Yoruba people will say, araron bombulowo. Lightning. So when lightning occurs, for instance, and there is a bomb, just waiting to be detonated. So when that lightning so there's something we just trip off immediately. There is a preponderance of poverty, frustration in the land. Now, these people also had been indoctrinated. Basically the ideology of Boko Haram, number one ideology was religious. Number one ideology. It was essentially religious. Before some disgruntled individual now found these people as willing tools, and they hijacked it. Now, giving them money, feeding them, meeting their daily needs and all that. So of course they will gravitate towards those politicians who can do that for them. That while relying essentially again on the ideological undertone of the movement. Now, and the same people are now funding them, giving them money. And also, you just see a situation whereby even recruitment becomes very easy. It becomes very easy because this is where their bread is being buttered. And the people who are in establishment are not ready to meet these daily needs, are not ready to alleviate poverty. It's only mouth alleviation you see on paper and television. It does not get to the grassroots. And these people give them handout every day and tell them what to do on a daily basis. Of course, they'll gravitate towards them. So what can government do now to discourage that? I think alleviation of poverty in the real terms, in the real sense of the word, not the paper one we see. Alleviation of poverty.
When you talk about alleviation of poverty, well, we really must look inwards, and I still want to stay within the continent, because if we try to look at how we can solve this security situation, and we have to go back to the very first, which is the police, until the police became, well, inadequate for us or inefficient before we started seeing soldiers. Mark, earlier on this morning, talked about the living conditions of some policemen as well as their places of abode. In Kenya, when the reform was to kick off, the currency in Kenya is shilling, and they required 81 billion shilling for that particular reform. And they say one of such is to go into their living condition, their salaries, as well as places where they live, because some of them don't have a befitting place where they live. Do you think if we start to put all of that in place in Nigeria, coupled with equipping the police force with all the needed paraphernalia to carry out their jobs, will have a better security in place?
I agree with you perfectly, Sulaiman, because you see, to do this, also, I come back to political will. You must have this political will to want to go the whole hog. Then, along the line, anybody you found to have been corrupted, one way or the other, a police officer, sack him. We are talking about sack now, not organizing pro-pane. It is all the pro-pane here and there, which we always know the end result, that are spoiling things. If you want to really reform and get to this El Dorado that you have just painted, we need to actually be ruthless with anybody who is corrupt. We're talking about zero tolerance here, because the life of this country depends essentially on the police. There is no democracy anywhere in the world that has the kind of police that we have now that ever tried. Nowhere. Police is an integral part of democracy. Where there is no good police, you see all this, because they will take bribe. But if you are able to actually meet the needs of the police and use one or two of them, top hierarchy officers, as guinea pig, yes, dismiss her. We are not talking about you have found him to have collected, just dismiss him immediately. Then it will send signal to the rest. But when you begin to ask somebody, maybe a DIG that have been corrupted in one way or the other, you set pro-pane. And those who are going to chairman the pro-pane are among his friends. What are we talking? We deceive ourselves. But I'm talking about drastic, solution to radical problems such as this. So when you find one, meet their needs first, their accommodation and everything. Let it be very fantastic, very tantalizing, that people will be willing to enter, not because they are going there to enrich themselves, but because they have a stake in this country. An ordinary American police or British police, for instance, whose security is taken care of, insurance taken care of, the children welfare and school fees, scholarship taken care of, will not think of taking bribe, because you'll be thinking of the what he's going to lose in terms of his name and retirement benefit and all that. So when he thinks of all that, he'll be circumspect in everything he does. But here, the moment you lose out or anything happens to a policeman here, second week, the children and the family driven out of barracks. You understand? Can you draw a parallel between these things? So these are the things we are saying. First of all, meet their needs. Then begin to look for guinea pig. Anybody, you just dismiss. Then we will get there. But as it is now, we still treat big thieves with kid gloves.
Isn't this about institutions also? Because if you're recommending drastic solutions to these kind of challenges, have we also put in place measures to checkmate the social effect that they will have? Because if you quote-unquote sack persons who have at least some kind of training, I mean, we've heard about some persons with some sort of uniforms participating in robbery. What about the backlash? Can we handle it?
Thank you very much. For a government who is ready to do that, would have put all the other measures in place. Now, when you talk about, it's part of regular training, orientation and reorientation of the police. Let them know the implication of any negative conduct on their part. Let them know that the government is capable and is ready to deal ruthlessly with anybody. Look at all the trainings that these people get before they get to DIG and all these. They have gone overseas, gone everywhere with Nigerian taxpayers' money. So it is now time for them to pay the society back by giving us selfless service. But government also must put in place measures that will make them incorruptible. For instance, the kind of money some of them are exposed to. Somebody was saying jokingly the other day that even the billion voted to security and all that, don't be surprised that by the time we distribute this money, some DPO will just get pittance. And from DPO, the whole thing disappears. So the real people who need money, may not get it. What are we talking about? It's still the same system. The system that will make so much money available to IG, DIG, and all this down the ladder like that. And eventually, if you not touch the rank and file, so that system also must be discouraged. Because when we talk about refurbishing of accommodation and actually meeting their needs, when you give money, look at the case of Tafa Balogun the other time. Look at the amount of money he was exposed to and how he disappeared with the money. And so these things continue to happen.
Let's also look at training. The duration of training, does that have anything to do with the output or the outcome of these police? Remember, the officers, they undergo almost 18 months training, but the recruits, they don't go as much as even 7 months. So should we be thinking of having almost the same equivalent of training for the officers who go, for instance, to Kano and spend like 18 months, which is an equivalent for those who go for the
master's degree? There is no amount of training you give an individual that is hungry. There is no amount of training you give an individual that is frustrated. There is no amount of training you give an individual that has that has an axe to grind with the system. He sees the system as very and highly corrupt. He sees the politician. He carries their money, illegal money for them. He guards the money. Okay? Eventually, they give him just money, barely enough to eat his lunch. He knows that this money is stolen, but he cannot say anything because of his uniform. He does all this on a daily basis. Then going up again, he sees his bosses. He sees the kind of facilities they have, properties they've acquired illegally. His bosses. Now, you now tell him, what are you talking about? You and I, we face the brunt because they meet us on the road. They extort money from us. If you know they cock their gun, then I watched your program the other day. You will say you are always absolutely civil when you are with the police, and that is just what I recommend to anybody until we refurbish our policemen, because they see you and I as potential threat, as people. These are educated people, and then be this. So if you even show any sense or any sentiment that you are in a hurry, so you are finished. Just let them know that now speak their language. Otherwise, you blow any grammar, the more reason they will delay you. So that is the mentality of the police. So with all this, my brother, it's not just training, frustration within the system. They see it every day.
I'm just thinking,
and their children are suffering.
Am I going to be acting as if I don't have any job if I meet a policeman on the road? Then
don't go to his level. Speak the broken and pidgin with him. Oh, how weather, how everything, how God will day here for you, and all of all they find.
But what about the political perspective to this? Because don't you think the politicians who have 2, 3, 4 mobile policemen attached to them will kick against the president if he were to take that decision? Remember, some of them may be in the same party, and they're supposed to support him on that. How will he cope with it?
That is the issue, and that is where any president should be able to carry the civil society along in anything he does. Civil society, we put them there. Who are the politicians without us? Who are the politicians without the people? Who are the government without the governed? So if you realize this, then you tilt more toward the civil society. Don't see them as your enemy, as the present circumstances seem to suggest. You don't see the civil society and labor as your enemies at all. Look at those things they are saying. Sift all the things. Of course, I wouldn't say everything they say is always right. You know, there are some extremities in some of this, but sift the whole thing. Look at the good things they are saying. Parley with them. By the time you carry the civil society along, those who voted you in, carry the labor along, let me see the politician now who will want to be antagonizing the president. In fact, he will incur the wrath of the people. But because the government over time has always alienated the people, those who matter most, that is the problem. Problem of legitimacy will now set in. Remember the recent protests and all that. Almost everybody wants to come. Everybody has one thing or the other to say. I was even baffled when I saw the artists and the musicians and all that. I said, wait, are they not the same people that President Goodluck Jonathan gave a lot of money the other time for his campaign and all that? So, but this thing has actually beaten all of them that they want to ventilate their views and ventilate their grievances over how government is wrong. Not only on fuel subsidy now, that thing threw up a lot of other challenges that government is facing. You understand? If government had been carrying these people along all this while, it will not be like that. Any policy that is for the people, we are very reasonable people in Nigeria. Look at with all these social media things. So a lot of things. You can't even afford to close any television station. You can't close any radio station, so that people will not know what is going on. They don't even need station and all this thing to know what is going on. As we talk now, some of these things we are saying now are already everywhere. Your iPad and iPhone and all these things. So everybody sees what is happening. So you cannot cage people anymore. The recent past just showed us how these things are being done. I urge President Goodluck Jonathan to teach more, with the civil society and labor, those who actually matter, those who can. These people, if they are angered sincerely, they can do something that will bring government down.